How's it going, ladies and Bruce's up? I'll be Sixkilla and welcome back to the Divine Deception. I was having a great time in this path here, but we cannot go any further without a green key, so we're heading back to the Brawler path. When we left this one last time, Yi had turned on us and gathered the group together, and we'd found out about, I can't remember the policeman's name, but he's in the pocket of the duets as well. Let's see what happens next. Kicker. How much longer do we have to stay here? I'm just saying that there's but so long I can look at the same clothes. I give it an honest try. Don't say that I didn't, but I feel kind of like I want to stick with my own fashion style. I mean, I picked it for a reason, you know? I like what I wear. Even if I was to pick something different out to wear, it sure as shit wouldn't be from a common brand store like this. All the shit here is totally white bread. Anyways, my point is, I've looked over everything they have here, like 10 or 20 times at this point. It's old. It's boring. I'm bored. You don't really point out that we're not doing this for fun. We're doing this because there's a gang of very violent, very resourceful criminals looking to find and murder you. We are laying low right now. Okay. Fair, maybe. But like, if our plan is just lay low in some random store, couldn't we also lay low in other places? Like a movie theater? No one's gonna look around at an active movie. Not if they don't want to be booed. Ah yes, booing. The ever-effective gang repellent. I'm just saying that it's dark, it's crowded, it's a good place to hide. It'd be way more interesting. We'd have to buy tickets. That leaves a trace. And given the current state of things, I think we could consider keeping our money a priority. Fine, movie theater's off the table. But like, there's gotta be other places that are more interesting than this. And to get to them, that requires us leaving the store we're in right now. Which means we could be seen. Which means we could get caught. We're not gonna risk our safety going out in the open just because you have the attention span of a child. You don't have to be a dick about this. You're talking about not arousing suspicion, but I'd say that just standing around the back of the store not buying anything is going to raise eyebrows. From who? The minimum wage employees? Or the old manager that looks like they're barely clinging to life? I'd be surprised if they can even see us from this distance. Don't say shit like that. Respect your elders. I didn't have it in me to argue this point. We're staying here. Fine. Chris sat down with a surprising amount of sass. By that I mean I previously didn't think he could sit down with sass. I stood corrected on that point. For my part, I just held back a sigh. I couldn't exactly blame Krish for acting out like this. Better than straight out panic, which would be reasonable enough reaction to everything else going on. After Yi's goons scattered, I left my hiding spot, grabbed my phone and contacted Krish. They needed to know what was going on ASAP. The two of us met up close by, and in person I described everything I saw. They had a hard time accepting it all, particularly the bit about Yi ordering their death. But they also didn't doubt that I was telling the truth. If they were on their own, they probably would have just moped around stunned for a bit. They might have even decided to confront Yi about this face on, though I'd like to think even they were that dumb. It was clear I had to step up. First things first, I need to get out of sight. I didn't know how quickly the duets were going to act on that whole kill order thing, but I had to assume the worst. The duets had a lot of members and exponentially more agents willing to give them information. As Krish had just demonstrated, they were a reasonably known entity in Panthea. They certainly stood out. It wouldn't be long to locate them. We decided to rush over and hide in a random clothing store. Seemed like a good place to lie low. It was unlikely the duets would think to look there. And it didn't seem like the type of place the information network would regularly hang out. However, this is far from a permanent solution. I knew that. Krish knew that. Neither of us wanted to state it out loud. But it had to be discussed. This wasn't some nightmare we'd wake out of. We had to make active moves to prevent this. We need to think long term. Long term? Or at least day long term. Where are we going to spend the night? Sleeping on the streets seemed ill-advised. Yeah, the duets can definitely find us there. Alright, well my pop's place is absolutely out. Not only would they be expecting that, I have no intent of getting him remotely involved in any of this. Going there would also expose him to danger. I agree, that's a bad idea. What about your place? Krish, the duets will be looking at the places they think they'll find us. We need a better solution. Alright, how about a hotel? There's a bunch of places for visitors to stay around Panthea. We just reserve a room for the night. I got cash. Again, Krish, they're thinking about where we're going to go. After the usual suspects come up empty, I bet officers will be interviewing just about every hotel owner in the city. It might work, but it's too high risk. Maybe we break into some place. There's got to be some abandoned apartments or houses or something. We take over one of those. Do I even need to explain why that won't work? I don't see you suggesting any bright ideas. I'm the one who's doing all the work right now. If all my ideas suck, then why don't you speak up? I think you should flee the city. What? That's not... Krish, I know you love Panthea, but it's not safe for you. You're saying we just completely bail? How do you think this is going to play out? You got dozens of people out there right now looking to murder you. You're a target, Krish. There's a hit out for you. You think it's just going to go away? You think life can return to normal after this? God damn it, this is do or die. You can't die, so you have to do. I know, I just... Fuck, man. Fuck. Krish could barely face me. Yeah, it was starting to sink in. Krish was scared. I couldn't blame them. It was a fucked up situation. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. I'm responsible for getting you sucked into all of this. You were right. You warned me about this activism. You told me not to trust Yi, but I just wouldn't listen. I just had to stick my head where it didn't belong. And once again, dumb Krish just ruins everything. But this time you're involved. And now things are fucked in a way that can't be walked back. Krish is on the verge of tears. With a taxi, it won't cost much to get to the city's borders. Due to tensions with rival gangs, I'm pretty sure the Duet's influence is pretty squarely stuck in Panthea. Like you said, there are always hotels. We'll just find a place out there. And after that, we can work things out. It's gonna be alright, Krish. We just need to be smart. Stick with me and we can survive. Say, Vals? Yeah? You watched the whole thing with Yi, right? Right. And you called the cops early on. Yeah, I told you all of this. So you were waiting to jump down and try to save us, right? Waiting for the right time to fight back? That's why I jumped down when your life was in danger. Okay, right. But then, doesn't that mean you could have jumped down when my journal was about to be tossed into the fire? What was Krish getting at? I could have. I also could have jumped down when you were getting the shit kicked out of you by Yi as a punishment. Right. It's just, you knew how much that journal means to me, Vals. How much I cared about it. And it fucking sucked when Yi tossed it in the fire. He was an asshole for that. But because your life wasn't at stake, it wasn't worth exposing my position. Wasn't worth it? Krish, every second I could delay my attack was a second gain for us. I didn't know how long it would take for the police to get here. And my decision was correct, if you remember. I could only hold back Yi's goons for so long. When the police arrived, Yi had just regained control of the situation. Had I jumped in earlier, that scene would have continued to play out. Is that what you would have wanted to happen? No, of course not. You're absolutely right, Vals. You did the rational thing. You were correct. I sensed there was something lying beneath those words. I also sensed I probably didn't like whatever was beneath them. I was already in a confrontational mood, so I had half a mind to push the issue again. However, it was at this opportune, or perhaps inopportune moment that something else caught my eye. Someone had entered the shop, and judging by who they were walking directly towards at this very moment, I had to guess it wasn't for clothes. Krish also realised the approaching presence and assumed what looked to be a fighting stance, but the person before us probably wasn't some Duet agent. Or our would-be assailant was a young woman wearing a punk rocker outfit who had her hair dyed bright pink. As she laid her eyes on us, she was very unamused. Yeah, what are you doing here? She just looked over us, bored. She didn't even bother saying anything. Speak up! Krish's shouting was beginning to draw something of a scene. I thought about talking over negotiations, but as I started to open my mouth, I closed it again. No. Not gonna say anything? Alright, then I get it. Put him up. Krish went from casually on guard position to straight up combative one. Krish? I hope you know I'm a world-class fighter, and my friend here ain't a slouch either. Plus, it's 2 versus 1. You really gonna start a fight in the middle of a store like this? That's your play? Good question, Chara. Kara? Given the gathered employees looking at us, it probably wasn't the best of ideas. Unhappy, Krish relaxed some. An awkward pause passed between the three of us. Well? If the two of you are done being proper idiots, shall we get going? She said this like it was the obvious next step. The hell do you mean? There's not a chance in hell we're going anywhere with you. Alright then, fine with me. If you want to stay here and be murdered by the Duets, there's no skin off my back. Just thought I'd give you the option. I'm saying all that so matter-of-factly, she turned around and began walking away without so much as a glance back. Unorthodox, to be sure. An awkward glance passed between Krish and myself. We both seemed to be weighing our options, trying to understand the situation, but ultimately, there wasn't much of a choice. Given how dire things were, Krish was willing to take any thread of hope tossed their way, no matter how tenuous. Hey, wait! Krish called out, and Kara... We're gonna go with Kara. Gracefully stopped in her tracks. Well, we'll go with you. For a moment, Kara just looked at us, saying nothing. And then she resumed walking out of the store. Brilliant. Awkwardly, the two of us followed her out. I was certain Chris didn't have the faintest idea what was happening. Their mind was probably racing right now. I say that with an air of superiority, but being honest, the situation was pretty much a total mystery to me as well. Guess the only option was to see how things played out. Parked right outside the store was a flashy-looking red sports car. Whoa! When I was skin, I always envied people with nice cars like this. Now that I've got some cash in my name, I figured why not grab one for myself? Without any more explanation, Kara encircled the car and got in the driver's seat. Meanwhile, Chris and I awkwardly made our way to the back seat. We buckled up and Kara pulled out into the street. This is really bizarre. There's no good reason why Kara wasn't explaining shit to us. I just had to hope this was some quirk of her personality. We drove in silence. Kara zoomed through the Panthea streets. In an odd stroke of luck, we weren't running into any red lights. The whole experience felt off. But not even in a bad way. It just sort of felt unreal, like we were in a trance or a dream or something. Good change of pace from the very real situation we were in not moments ago. Chris fidgeted around in the seat. They were very clearly uneasy with the setup. It looked as though the whole trance thing was more of a me thing. Oh well. For my part, I passively looked out at the Panthea streets. For as long as I've lived here, I so rarely actually just look around. There are a couple of shops, some very elaborate graffiti, and there's the Olimpo's main office building. A little extravagant, but you couldn't deny its charm. And there were some more buildings. You know, I always question why Chris seems so infatuated with this place. But for this one drive, I could kind of see their point. There was actually something beautiful about the place, beneath all the crime and conspiracy and whatnot. I could actually imagine some of the less informed citizens blissfully unaware on the other side of Panthea who legitimately thought the city was idyllic. I could only envy them. So, this is a bit awkward, huh? Chris, in place of admiring the scenery, had been growing increasingly uncomfortable with the silence. To try and break it, they spoke up. How so? I mean us, just sitting in silence? You don't find that awkward? Not particularly. I don't mind a bit of banter even with friends. But seeing as I don't know either of you two, forcing us to chat just seems like a bit of a pain. Feel me? Well, if we were talking, might as well broach the topic I wanted to bring up. You're right. Excuse me? You're gonna have to speak up, mate. I can barely hear you. You're right. You don't know either of us. So that raises some questions. I'm finally getting around to this, huh? How'd you find us? When you entered the store, you clearly knew that we were there. But I thought we covered our traces pretty well. Clearly not well enough. Yeah, about that. See, one of my friends was at you guys' little dumbass gathering. After that went to shit, she was kind enough to call me up with all the deets. Once I finished laughing my ass off, I figured this was as good an opportunity as I was going to get. Obviously you two were toast, angering the duets like that. You're not answering my question. How'd you find us? Kara kept one hand on the wheel, and with the other, she thumbed back at Krish. Your friend has a phone on him. Wait, seriously? I looked over to Krish in anger. You didn't think to tell me this? You didn't ask. Why does it matter? Yeah, you might want to toss that out pretty soon. If I can use it to track you nitwits, duets will be on that soon enough. Hey, Krish, throw it out the car right now. What? That thing's fucking expensive. Not the point. There are memories on this thing. They're on the cloud. Throw it away, Krish. Krish looked at me with fear in their eyes. If Krish didn't throw it away, I would. Accepting defeat, they rolled down the window and tossed the phone out. There, happy? That... well, it definitely wasn't the ideal way to dispose of a phone, but I guess it'll work well enough. Okay, look. Can we quit focusing on it? There's some sort of super hacker and he found me through my phone. Got it. Super hacker is overselling it. Just a bit of light hacking. You haven't really answered my question though. No? I thought it was pretty clear how I found you. Okay, that question, sure. My main point is you still have a lot to explain. You're right, you're right. I could explain now. Kara began bringing the car to a stop, parking it. Or we could just get there, and things would make sense then. I knew where we were. We were by the entrance to the forest. Things are getting weirder and weirder. Who's up for a little walk? Could not be a long one. Relax, the place we're going is real close by. After my fight, I wasn't exactly in the mood for a walk. But we've come this far. So Krish and I, still with no real context to say, followed Kara deeper into the forest, walking the beaten trail. Luckily for us, Kara wasn't lying. It wasn't long until we took a turn onto an offshoot of the main path. And once we walked a bit of that, I could see a relatively large house sitting in a clearing. Well, compared to the size of some of the buildings in the forest, it really wasn't that big considering. But it was nothing to slouch at. This is where we're heading? Behold, my friends, the estate of the late Veronica Collins. Since she passed, my boss has been renting it. It's our base of operations. Your boss? Instead of responding, Kara just kept walking toward the house. It was becoming clear this was something of a theme with her. Well, when we were close, it was better to just walk a couple more feet than press the issue. If I was going to get up in arms about waiting for answers, it probably would have happened before now. Instead of approaching the front of the house, we circled around to the back where the garage was. Kara took a small remote out of her pocket and pressed a button. And just like that, the garage opened. Actually, what was a house like this doing with a garage? Was there a car parked in here? I doubted it. I knew there were in fact roads that cars could drive in the forest, but I hadn't seen any leading to this house. As the garage opened, my suspicions were confirmed. No cars. Has this house been out here so long that there used to be an opening for cars to drive out of, and the trees have grown over that area? Or was it just an oversight when building the house? Or was an opening for a car planned? This is perhaps not the detail to get caught up in, considering that Polly Deismer was the man standing inside the garage. But I had a tendency to get caught up in the minor details. Anyway, Polly Deismer. That was the thing. My boss. Krish's demeanor noticeably changed. Oh, so you actually brought them here? You doubted me? No, of course not. I've been taught my lesson one too many times for that. Just surprised they came so willingly. Yeah, well, if we knew who we were visiting, I wouldn't have come so willingly. Seems to me you've got something of a grudge against me. Krish, please remember, tenuous situation, tread carefully. Of fucking course I do. God damn it. Why would I be happy visiting a fucking Deismer? Your company's killing Panthea. Yep, that's pretty valid. Huh? I mean, if I were you, I'd probably hate me too. But I'm not a bad guy, trust me. Hang out with me for a bit and you'll see I'm not like my family. That's so. Well, I'd like to think that. This wasn't the time for this sort of chat. I still want an explanation. Oh, ditto. Huh? An explanation? I like being in the loop a lot. Wait, you don't know what we're doing here? I mean, I got the general gist of it. Sorta. Okay, being real with you, I didn't realize it was a conversation I had to pay attention to until like halfway through. Krish nodded sagely, as if they understood this practice. But I'm pretty sure even from the start, I was only getting the basic rundown. That's because I only had the basic rundown. Kara turned towards us. Care to tell the story yourselves? What, so we just spill everything like that? Krish. I gave them a determined look. This wasn't the place to fight. I'd gotten the vibe that we wanted to be winning points with Polly right now. Just give him a rundown. Krish evaluated this. They clearly didn't like the idea, but they also trusted my judgment more than they trusted their own at this point. Alright. I mean, it's not a very long story. There's this guy, Mr. Yi. I sort of, looked up to him. Trusted him. He was a duet member, but he told me he wanted out of the business. I gathered a bunch of people who were fed up with the duets and we were going to meet to talk about ways of resisting the gang. But the whole time it was a trap. Mr. Yi brought his henchmen and they surrounded us and threatened us, and then he beat me up. Then I punched him. Vels here punched a bunch of his guys, and the cops showed up and we scattered. But Vels stuck around and overheard that the duets put a hit out for the two of us, so we had to flee. And now we're on the run, because they're trying to kill us. And that's it. Wow. That's... Polly seemed at a loss for words. Wait, so a duet member told you to gather up a bunch of people who had expressly anti-duet sentiments. That didn't seem, I don't know, a little dodgy to you? It did. I exchanged a look with Kara. A sort of mutual understanding passed between us. Like, we got the vibe that we were actually in a weird way in pretty similar situations. It really fucking sucks, guys. I don't know what to say. You're just trying to do the right thing. And those bastards. God, I fucking don't understand why the duets aren't just in jail. Like, they're criminals for God's sake. Aren't jails for holding criminals? I don't get it. Yeah, you and the rest of us. Man, fuck. Just hearing that has got me fired up. I like this Polly guy. He's kind of a dumbass, but I like him. Alright, it's decided. You two are being hunted by the duets? Right. Okay, then you can stay here. What? What? Are you serious? Why do you think I brought you all the way here? I don't know. I thought we were going to get killed or something. And you entered the car? You were intimidating. And Vels did it, so I thought there was a plan or something. Hold on a minute. I've got a number of questions. Please ask what you want. This is too good. First of all, is this actually safe? The duets are really good at finding people. They'll be searching all over the place. The last thing I want is for us to feel safe staying in this random house in the middle of the forest just to get killed in the middle of the night by a set of particularly intelligent duet members. It wouldn't be good for any of us. Yeah, shit, that'd be bad, huh? But I mean, they need to know that you were here, right? I don't think that should be possible. I mean, you guys are probably smart enough to ditch anything that can be tracked ASAP, right? I shot Krish a dirty look. They conveniently let their gaze wander to the ceiling. It's not like there's any connection between me and the two of you. The only people that know about you, you two being here are the four of us, currently standing in this room. You guys obviously aren't going to tell, and I'm not going to tell. And we can absolutely trust Kara to keep a secret. So, yeah, this should be good. No, you're right. We don't have to leave Panthea after all. Of course, there needs to be some ground rules. Let me be clear, if the duets find out that Polly is sheltering you two, that's going to fuck us all. We can't get cocky about this. That means until further notice, you aren't allowed to leave the house without getting approval. We wouldn't want you to be spotted by the old informant. Fine by me. I mean, not fine, but, like, I can swing it. Also, this should go without saying, but no phones. You just have to use the technology already available in the house. Which shouldn't be a problem, since there's frankly offensive amounts of it in here. Hey, what did I say? This is why you get spares. When guests come over, suddenly you're the host with the most. That's... Kara rubbed her temples. The universe literally put a hit out on you two guys, just so a situation could crop up that vindicates your argument. You really are fucking the main character of life or whatever. Oh, don't say that. I don't buy it. The statement came to the surprise of everybody else in the room. I thought it was pretty reasonable. What do you mean? You just happen to give us refuge from the dangerous gang hoping to have us killed? On what, a whim? I don't buy it. Hey, I have the space. Why not put it to good cause? Get a little karma on the side, huh? Okay, but Kara mentioned earlier that we were brought here for a specific reason. And that reason could be to save you. Kara's a very generous person, I'll have you know. Fine. So you're saying you're just gonna let us stay here, basically as refugees with no catch? Yes. Well... God damn it. Hey, look, I'm not asking you to do anything. Actually, I'm not joking about that. If everything goes fine, everything goes the way I hope, then literally you have absolutely no obligations living here. But... I heard from my friend that you two are pretty good at fighting. There is a significant amount of fighting skill between the two of us. Hell yeah! I suspect Krish hadn't noticed my change of wording. Then that's the only qualification. I'd feel more safe knowing that a pair of capable hands was sleeping in the same house as Polly. Huh? I'm confused. Let me try to explain. So, as you know, my father is Odin Deismer. My brother Art, currently the CEO of Olimpo. And you know, he's not really that bad of a guy. He needs to loosen up more, sure. Could really stand to go out and party now and then, see the world. But he's really smart. Always has been. And he's a lot more thoughtful and caring than he lets on. Like, he'd never admit it, but he actually looks out for you if you're close to him. People give him a lot of shit, but he never lets it get to him. But the way he's running Olimpo can't be tolerated. It's unforgivable. My father was a complete amoral bastard. From birth we were taught that we were only of value if we got results, and that our only way to get results was to play dirty. Art always took Odin's lessons to heart. Maybe being the older sibling, he thought he had something to prove. That's why he ended up inheriting the company. Well, given his general competence, maybe he always would have. Whether it's Odin's influence or not, the point is he can't be allowed to continue to run Olimpo like he has been, which is why Polly is going to be challenging him for control of the company. I really don't like to lock horns with him like this, but honestly it has to be done. And you want us here to make sure nothing happens to Polly? Right. Wait, hold on. Am I getting this right? Are you saying that you think with your brother might try to do something to you? No, he wouldn't. He would. And I want you to make sure he doesn't succeed. If that's the case, why not straight up hire bodyguards? They do the job better than us, and you clearly have the resources for it. All the traditional avenues of hiring bodyguards would probably be detected by Art. Bodyguards that are paid to protect can be paid to defect. But from the little I know, I doubt you two in turn. And if Art doesn't know about your presence, chances are anybody he sends wouldn't either. You can't downplay the element of surprise. Understood. I think it all makes sense to me. At first, I was skeptical of this proposal, but the story they gave checked out. All parties benefited. Honestly, for Krish, this is probably the best way out. It was a gift practically handed to them. However, they didn't look particularly happy. In fact, they were back to bordering on pissed. So basically, you're just using us as pawns in your war with your brother over power. Is that pretty much it? Typical. Makes a lot more sense than you're doing this out of some sense of altruism. Tell me this, why should we be backing you in this war in the first place? Maybe your brother's been doing some messed up stuff, but what assurance do I have that you won't be just as bad? At least Art is a good business owner. But all I've ever heard about you is that you like to act like a drunk arsehole. Fucking hell, Krish, time and place. Oi, the hell gives you the right to act like that? You were dead meat. Polly is offering you a chance to save yourself on a silver platter and you talk to him like that? Why don't I just throw you out and you can... Relax, Kara. Polly had a smile, but there was a bit of sadness to it. He's got every right to react like this. I go by they, them. Oh, sorry. They've got every right to react. Look at it from their perspective. Why would they trust me? You heard them, I'm a drunken arsehole. Look, you don't have to support me. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. At this point, you can stay here if you want regardless. Knowing what I know, I can't exactly kick you out and expect you to sleep well tonight. I just thought you ought to know the dangers that option would have. You don't have any obligation to actually try and protect me or anything. I glanced over to Krish. Their expression was conflicted. They might need a bit of a push. If you don't mind, Polly, would you mind explaining why you think the company would be in better hands with you in charge? Why I deserve it, huh? That's the wrong question. I just want it out of my brother's hands. I don't deserve anything at all. I've had a pretty easy life. I mean, my dad's an arsehole, but whose isn't? Sure, I had to deal with some abuse on that front, but it was a small trade-off for living a lavish lifestyle. I was never good at school, couldn't apply myself right. Never good enough for Odin, never got his stupid games. I was a pretty worthless kid. There was a bit I really wanted to keep up with that. But after the umpteenth lecture from Odin, I finally realised I really wasn't on the same level as him. I couldn't keep up with him no matter how hard. So why try? I used my wealth to play around, skipped school, got into trouble, met girls, did what I want. Would have probably flunked were it not for my father's influence. Eventually I became an adult, got a job at my father's company. I hated it. You know, I almost considered quitting it. I was given a super high paying, low effort job without any of the qualifications I needed for it, and I almost quit out of spite. But I was a bit too dependent on my lifestyle. I kept doing what I'd always done. Having fun, shirking responsibility. It's really easy to fall into habits, especially habits developed over years and years. Having fun starts taking on a new definition. Getting drunk, getting in scandals, doing some stuff that, yeah, some stuff that really isn't excusable. I mean, fuck, you've seen the headlines. DUIs, assault, sexual harassment. I still think that last one was actually bullshit, but I'm not gonna get into that. It was very, very bad. I was told I was a disgrace to the family, but that just encouraged me. Fuck my family. Odin always talked about being brutal, but he never had the balls to actually cut me off. If you met me from even a year ago, I'd honestly stick with art. He'd be in better hands. And then, as really more of a joke than anything else, I decided to start working with a bunch of the lowest level employees. It was really eye-opening. I mean, I literally had never done a hard day's work in my life. I was pretty awful at those entry-level jobs, but my co-workers didn't complain. When Odin heard what I was doing, he got upset. Art, he just thought I wouldn't stick with it for more than a day or two. Both responses just motivated me to keep at it longer. And the more time I spent there, actually trying my best, the more perspective I started to get. Odin always talked about how different jobs were there for different sorts of people, as if being an executive was more noble or some shit, but that was total bullshit. The more I worked there, the more unfair shit I noticed. Shit that I was surprised people actually had to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And the more I talked with these workers, the more I realised how absolutely entitled I'd lived my life. And I'd been throwing away opportunities by acting like an ass. How my whole way of thinking, how I'd been thinking for years, it was all bullshit. Since then I've tried to change how I live, to be a better person. I can't say I've gotten there yet, but at the very least I can say that if I was in control of Olimpo, I'd listen to my employees, unlike Art. I'd focus less on making our company bigger and more on making it better. When I met with Kara, she convinced me that the best way to use my privileged lot in life was to take power and do good with it. So that's what I'm doing. Oh, and I've quit the whole drunken entitled arsehole thing as well. Is that so? Okay, the gala was a one-time thing. I had a good reason. And that night at the casino? Work in progress, like I said, I'm a work in progress. Let's try to get to a finished state before you take over the company, okay? Kara sighed and then turned back to the two of us. I don't blame you if you weren't terribly convinced by that story. Polly acted like an arsehole for a lot longer than he didn't. Well, let me just say this. Polly Deismer is a good person. He's had his struggles, and issues, lots and lots of issues, but fundamentally he's a nice person. I've worked at the company for long enough to say this. Even back when he was more of an arsehole, he was never malicious. I noticed him stand up for people when he saw shit going down. He was always quick to do favours for people, or give a compliment, or worry over somebody in trouble. I saw things like this all the time. I noticed I saw him in charge. He's been taking genuine strides trying to educate himself and do better. It might sound like the bare minimum, but I think somebody who has absolutely no need actually dedicating themselves to getting better at doing entry-level work is noble, in a very weird way. More than anything, he's aware of himself now, which is the biggest thing. But even if he's more aware, he hasn't really changed. He's always been good at heart. Incredibly entitled, perhaps. Stupid, impulsive, incompetent, unaware of the actual consequences of his actions or his real place in life. But good. To be honest, even though she clearly legitimately trusted and liked Polly, it wasn't really a ringing endorsement to me. I had no doubt that Polly was nice. That doesn't really matter much. A lot of horrible people can be genuinely nice. However, it wasn't me those words needed to reach. It was Krish. You know, whenever I heard your name, I always thought you were just some corporate arsehole. But now that I've heard your story, I feel really dumb for judging you without ever meeting you. I mean, going from a total prick to ally of the people, that's like super impressive. It reminds me of something Mr. Yi once told me. Something like, for most people, once they're walking down a path, it takes incredible strength of will to change it. I think I butchered that quote, but my point is, I think the fact that you were able to look at yourself and realize that you weren't happy with who you are is super inspiring. Alright, I'm on board. If you need a bodyguard, then you, my friend, have a bodyguard. Hell yeah! Polly held out his hand and Krish slapped it hard. Well, they've changed their tune fast. Can't say I was overly surprised at that outcome. Here's to a beautiful new alliance, I guess. Well, good to hear that sorted out. So you two are okay with backing Polly in the bid for Olympo? I have no problem with it. To be honest, I don't give much of a shit about personal journeys or emotional growth or whatever. From what I've heard, most people in charge would be an improvement over the current management. And more to the point, Krish needs a place to stay. Having a place to hide out is #1 priority. A pretty straightforward mindset. I'm a pretty straightforward person. I can respect that. Awesome. So I guess things are settled. You two are staying here from now on. Oh yeah. Guess we'll be roommates for a while, Vals. Hold on a minute. I let it get too far. There wasn't a better time to bring it up, though. This wasn't gonna go over well. But, you know, there was no getting over it. I couldn't stay here. I can't stay here. What? Huh? I'm confused. Don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful for this offer. Krish should absolutely take it. And like I said, I'm willing to back you in your struggle with your brother for control of the company. If you need me to do something, just ask and I'll help. I'll try to spend a lot of time around here as well. But I can't spend the night here. Seriously? I thought the point was you guys didn't have a place to go. Krish doesn't have a place to go. I do. How exactly does that work? Trust me, duets don't know the first place to look for me. I overheard them. I'm a non-entity in their eyes. They're completely unaware of my identity. And for the little they know, it'd be hard to track me down. But what if they see you walking around? They only know to recognize me because of my red hoodie and arm tattoos. If I put on another coat with one with longer sleeves, I'm confident they wouldn't realize it was me. Plus, I'm not really the target. I mean, they want to kill us both, but they just called me an issue. Krish is the target. It's safer for me. I guess I just don't get why you don't want to stay here. Do you have a problem with me or something? It's nothing like that. I just have things to attend to. Fuck that. Krish have been holding their tongue until now, hearing me out. That only lasted so long. You have a place to stay, and you didn't mention that before? It still wouldn't be safe for you. The hell's up with that? Is this about you never wanting to show me where you live? What on earth are you hiding? And what is it that you have to do out there? Because it sure as hell ain't a part-time job or something. No way someone as logical as you would risk your life over that. So what do you have to do? We're supposed to be friends. We're in a life or death situation together, and yet you're still not telling me shit. What on earth is that about? Is it because Kara and Polly are standing right there? Fine. Let's have a let's leave the garage for a minute. There's no need for that. That's... Fuck. Are we even friends? I think so. Well, I'm starting to have questions. You keep way too many secrets. I don't know what shit you have to hide, but you don't have to hide it from me. You shouldn't have to. Sorry, Krish. But it was probably for the best that I kept this to myself. It's not that I didn't trust you. It would be better for both of us if we leave things like this. Hey, Krish. I'm sure your friend here has a good reason for keeping things from you. Polly was clearly uncomfortable with the atmosphere created. I know. Why didn't I show you around the place? You're gonna love it. This place is top tier. It's got a huge kitchen, it's got a game room, and the beds are awesome. If anything's not to your liking, just ask me. My credit card is at your disposal. I mean, you're gonna be staying here. It's only fair. So come on, let me give you a tour around. Yeah, okay. That's probably for the best. Awesome. First things first, the library. But you have a library in the house? Well, a library might not be the right word for it. It's not like there's a librarian or a library cadre in here. But the room has a lot of books. Really, what types? See for yourself. I haven't really gotten around to organising them yet, so whatever order they're in was how the previous owner left them. The two walked out of the garage, Polly eager to see the tourists get the tour started. I felt bad that was how I was leaving the conversation with Krish. I'd probably have to deal with that before long. Later. I'd have time later. I turned to Kara. I wasn't quite done with our chat. So you plan to have Polly as the CEO of Olympo? That's the plan at any rate. And it's because you think you'd be a more fair boss than Art. Yeah. Why else would I do it? Being the head of Olympo is pretty powerful. Dating the head of Olympo would make you pretty powerful yourself. Hey, we're not dating, alright? Get that idea out of your head. Sorry, my bad. Guess I misread the room. If you're insinuating that I'm doing it for personal gain, you couldn't be more wrong. Okay, no need to be so defensive. It would be a reasonable motivation. Well, it's not mine. Fair enough. Any idea how you actually intend to dethrone Art? He doesn't seem the type to be content with losing his position as CEO. Well, for starters, Polly already has a 20% stake in the company. Another 25% is distributed amongst the employees and the like, and I've been trying to consolidate all the spare stock. Now that leaves a 55% share firmly in the hands of Odin and Art. So long as the two stay a united front, this whole stock route seems like a bad deal, bad end. We don't necessarily need Odin to flip, just to sit out. Did you know in Panthea, if a shareholders meeting is held and people with stock in the company don't show up, their stock doesn't count? If Odin abstained from a shareholders meeting, then you just need to control 38% of the stock to make a company-wide change. Okay, but I assume there are some regulations where a shareholders meeting is planned out in advance and signed off on. You can't just spring one and try to sneak through a proposal. Right. In that case, you need to get Odin to abstain from attending, which is basically the same thing as siding with Polly. So basically, you two don't have a real plan. We're in the planning stages. It's a project. Instead of pushing the ankle, I had something else I wanted to ask. You heard about us from a friend. Right. What friend of yours attended the anti-duat meeting like that? As a matter of fact, I have a number of activist friends. I wouldn't have thought that was a surprise to you. Say, while we're on the topic of questioning each other, I've got some questions about you, Vels. Oh? I find it odd that you feel so confident that the duats don't know about you. I overheard them say as much. Okay. And what exactly do you have to do so bad? I don't think you need to know that. Don't I? No. Whatever. Just don't screw me. Wouldn't dream of it. And with that, Kara turned and entered the house. And with that I turned and left the house. As I left, I made sure to make a note of the exact location of the place. Would be good to know. I'd make sure to get in contact with Krish before too long. They weren't happy with me for now, but they'd get over it. I didn't like fighting with them, but it was inevitable. Polly's proposal might have solved the problem, but it wasn't a real solution. The duats were still out for blood. So long as the root of our issues wasn't addressed, Krish would still be in danger, unable to leave hiding. As far as I could tell, Polly's war with Art wasn't going to help fix that at all, which meant the task fell to me. I didn't have an idea on how to make things right. Guess I just have to poke around. Quite inscrutable, that Vels. Play things close to the chest. I mean, we're seeing through Val's eyes and even we're somewhat in the dark. Wild. Wait, didn't you create all this? Isn't this your fault? Now, let's not play the blame game. Sure, I presented things in a way, but even still, I'm not going to hide or change anything major. You want to get mad at someone? Val's is the one not giving anything away, in actions or thought. But surely you choose when the scenes start and stop. Okay, fine, you caught me. I'm trying to add a little mystery to the proceedings. Sue me. Look, Val's is akin to a black box. I should clarify. A black box of information is just a term for something, where you can observe the input and the output, but none of the internal processing. I suppose, philosophically, the question is, does it matter what's inside the black box? It should, right? That's our gut instinct. If what's inside the black box doesn't matter, then functionally there's no difference between chatting with a real human or an advanced artificial intelligence. Although I suppose some people would argue that. Turing test, electric sheep. I fucking hate sci-fi. Ironic, I suppose. We're wildly off track now. My point is that it's our gut instinct to think that what's inside the black box matters. But there are so many black boxes in the universe. Every other human mind is a black box. If you want to get creepy and existential with it, everything outside your brain is a black box. You can hope what you see and what you hear matches reality, but there's an awful lot of stories where that's not the case. So if the contents of the black box matter, then you have to accept you'll never be able to know an awful lot of things that matter rather than a large deal. It's an uncomfortable thought. Maybe it's better to content yourself with the idea that only what is experienced matters. A more comforting option. Gosh, this is an awfully long-winded to say that Val's is pretty mysterious, isn't it? But it's an important topic, I think. Some may view being content to not open the black box as sloth, a lack of ambition. Information is power, after all. But I digress. Ignorance, too, can be quite a power. If you don't know what's inside the black box, you can just concern yourself with the inputs and the outputs. You can use a black box guilt-free. There's power in that, although only if you care about remaining human. And we got a bronze key, so that's not going to help us further our investigative one. But we can do more in this one, so we'll do that one. We'll do more of Val's story in the next one. Till then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next episode.